am the CEO of YetiZen. YetiZen has two arms. It runs the San Francisco Game Developers Workshop, which is the largest regularly meeting game group anywhere in the world. And we also run the YetiZen Games Accelerator program. One of the speakers you're going to have later on during the show, Simon Newstead from Frenzu, won the other version of this competition that happened in GDC a few months ago. Phenomenal success there. He's actually broken about 1 million downloads. Do catch that session if you can. And for now, we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me introduce you very quickly to our judges. We have Michael CHANG in the center there from EA. And we have Sulaiman Ali from TinyCo to his left. Wave to the audience, please. And Harry Liu from Kabam. Awesome. We're going to have 5 competitors today. Our order is press start, stomp, popover, run wilder, and strange loop. Each of these guys will be pitching to you for 5 minutes. This will be followed by 5 minutes of Q&A by the judges, and then the judges and I will go away for a few minutes at the end of all 5 companies and deliberate on who's the winner. And in that time, you get to ask them all the questions that you ever wanted to while they were actually pitching. So make sure they're really hard ones, okay? All right, so I'm going to get off stage. Press start, are you ready? Come on up, and we will be timing you. So it's actually going to be 5 minutes for pitching and 4 minutes for Q&A, all right?
Good morning to everybody. My name is Luis Parra from Press Start. Quick overview of our company. We are based in Colombia. We do Facebook games, and we have so far 4 Facebook games published. Right now, I'm gonna pitch you our latest game. Oh, sorry. Here's our newest game. Basically, this game was born from mechanics. We started to think about what was fun, what was intuitive, what was fun to play in the iPad, and to get the mechanics and the controls for the iPad and for the user. So we came up with a mix between runner and level-based mission game, which is this. This is the main concept art for the game. It's a car game with the runner. So you basically run through the car through a city. The theme that covers the whole game, it's a delivery guy in a really traffic jam city, and the delivery guy has to go through the city. To do that, he has a special car, and the special car has some special mechanics which allow him to go through the city, which I'll explain later. Okay, so our game mechanics, the game was born from the game mechanics, and then we just put the art. Our game mechanics are 3 main mechanics, and the car can morph. The car can either get tall, get really skinny, or get really flat. Like the reason for this is that we think that for a lot of people, like traffic and traffic jams and commuting is really hard. So if you could really go through the traffic, like morphing your car would be pretty much great. So we appeal to that like need to people to get to your work or run errands. To wrap it up, we designed a city. So these are 4 concepts for the city. We have the downtown, country, subway, beach, and this is suburbs going into downtown. Our art style, pretty much, it's cartoony, friendly to everybody. It's 7 up, pretty much. It's quirky, it's funny. We like to do funny games. We like to play with shapes to get great silhouettes of games. So we have like sample of buildings, some cars, and our really bright saturated colors. So it's a really happy and fun game. Okay, social elements, we're starting to think about really simple social elements. So get players to like us and follow us. From that, we'll give them coins, the usual. And we haven't really get the ranking down, but it will be there. The monetization system, which is pretty much a big part of the game, is based on the main core of the game. So The main core is going from point A to point B, going through traffic, beating a time limit, basically. So for that, we set up a set of power-ups, and the basic morphs has some upgrades. So the power-ups basically helps the player complete the main core of the game. So one is horn power, takes the horn power takes the cars away with like a wave. Big bumpers can crash through cars. Ghost car can go through cars pretty easy. Speed boost or turbo, it's, well, as usual in car games. Extra time and health, we can explain by themselves. Okay, sorry. So through these and through missions, we expect players to spend money to get through the core of the game. The game is obviously being, player can complete the game without the power-ups, but this will help the player complete missions, earn more coins, and therefore complete all the levels. So basically, we're mixing like runner-based games with car games and level mission games. That's the rap game. Thank you very much.
Okay, so just to remind everyone, from the elements that they are going to be judged on, it's innovation, clarity of business model, presentation skills, business plan for exit, and potential for business success, like revenue, installs, things, acclaim, things like that. So, judges, any questions?
It looks like a fun game, but there are several things you didn't touch base clear enough. One is you mentioned monetization, but I don't see, you did not describe how your monetization connect with the game loop. If you can describe the game loop and then link the monetization in, it will make the business model more clearer. Otherwise, it's blurry to investor or anybody to understand like why player need to buy it and how often they buy it, what's the potential lifetime ARPU it can generate for each player. That's one thing, if you tune your presentation, probably will help for you.
Okay.
Do you want to take a crack at answering that, how that it's linked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so how the monetization is linked through the base core of the game, basically. Okay, so the base core of the game is completing missions under a certain amount of time. And in those missions, you have 3 achievements: getting under a certain amount of time, completing the game with more than 90% of the health, and getting all the coins. So all our power-ups are designed to help the player accomplish these 3 achievements and completing all the levels, basically. So, the main mechanic, the main obstacles are traffic jams, and you have the morphs to go through them. But also you have, if you have slow motion and a big traffic jam, so you can like think and go through the cars. If you have the horn power, which is like a big horn with a big wave, you will clean the city, like clean the street from cars. Ghost car, it will let you go through cars. Turbo will let you like go faster. Extra time will buy you time so you can complete the achievement of time. And health, it will help you complete the achievement of going through the city with over 90% of the health. And magnet, it will help you collect all the coins. And yeah, that's how our monetization goes through the core loop, which is going from point A to point B and going successfully through the traffic jams.
Do you have any plans to exit the business, or do you want to continue making games?
I want to continue making games.
Got it.
I have a question. How do you intend to acquire users for the game? And let's say you acquire 1 million users for the game, how much revenue do you think it will generate?
We're thinking initially, so like at least 50 cents per player, the initial like average. So that at least players will buy the first package to get 10,000 coins. That will give them a lot of free time, As you can see, the prices, they're not so expensive. They'll get expensive as you move along with the upgrades. But like with 10,000 coins, you can get a lot of free play.
And if I could add one question here. So we've noticed a number of Facebook game companies there's still heavy competition for those that are remaining. Getting attention from users is always a challenge. On the acquisition side, have you thought about sponsorships or anything that will draw attention to your game so that you'll get users early on and for lower cost upfront?
Do you mean like
Could be branded sponsorships or other things like that.
like car companies sponsor us? Yeah, we're actually thinking about that. Like since it's a car game, we were thinking about approaching different car companies, and maybe we can put Volkswagen there instead of that car, and get users through that kind of sort of ways. Also, like in-game publicity. So since it's a city, you have a lot of billboards, big billboards, so you can put a lot of publicity there, basically.
Okay, and when will this be launching? When can we go and play it?
We'll say a month and a half. We're actually looking for publishers right now.
Okay, great. Anything else, judges? No? Let's give them a hand.
Thank you.
All right, next team, come on up. Hi, Daniel.
Gonna try to connect here.
Hey, I have a question for you before
Sure.
you get started.
Yeah.
You sold to Digital Chocolate, right?
Yeah.
What was it more like milk chocolate or dark chocolate? How did it feel?
How did it feel?
Yeah.
You mean how did it feel to sell? Great.
How
What
did- milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
do you mean? The exit?
Yeah.
It was all chocolate for me, but
Okay. You like both.
yeah, no, it was a good exit. Sorry, I'm just gonna do this. And go through it. Man, don't need on here. Just get this on there. And we're on. Wow, that's great. Awesome. Hey guys. So name of the new company is, or company number 2 is Stomp Studio for now. So just a little bit. What we do is we build tablet games that are free to play. So we're focused on 100% on tablets. We're not upsizing mobile games. We're not making Facebook games. We're focused on tablet games. So who are we? My name is Daniel Bernstein. I founded Sandlot Games in 2002 out of our spare bedroom. And I sold it at Digital Chocolate in 2011. We bootstrapped in 2002, did a 1.5 million Series B in 2008. We did a Series A, which was like insignificant. But it was good at the time that we did it. Top games are Cake Mania with about 300 million downloads. Was pretty much on every single platform, from the feature phones, to iPhones, to Android devices, to DS. We sold about 700,000 units on the DS. So my experience really spans across all areas of the games business, from game design to product development to marketing to business development to M&A, having to gone through the process several times and then finally successfully sold the company in 2011. My partner in the business is Vitaly Vostrikov, who was previously GM of Sandlot Games Russia. He's the original programmer for Cake Mania. He grew and built the team over there. We've known each other since 2004. He's an equity partner in the business, so he's going to stick around. He and I have shipped over about 20 titles in 6 years with that studio. Okay, market for tablets is huge. This is just based on unit shipments. You guys can see where it's going. I'm going to spend a lot of time on that because I think everyone knows this. This is kind of interesting because what this particular analytic shows from Flurry is that the revenue per active user is really where we're focused. So our focus is going to be, and things are changing now. Nexus is doing well. Yeah, everybody knows this. So this is already dated. But revenue per active users is highest on the iTunes App Store. So we'll do probably an iPad version first. We'll probably follow it up with a Kindle Fire version, and then we'll see what else is going on. There may be also strategic opportunities around Surface and some other things. Free-to-play makes the most money. No one can discount that. Everything that needs to be focused right now, if you're building a company, games company, unless you know free-to-play, learn how to do free-to-play. And that's what we've learned to do. So here's an example of how free-to-play works. Again, you guys already know this, so I'm not going to walk you through it. Our focus is going to be either buying premium currency through free-to-play that you can actually spend in the game instead of grinding constantly, similar to Temple Run, or premium items that you can buy in the game, depending on what the game is going to be. And I'm not here pitching a game, I'm pitching a games company, which means multiple shots on goal. We're focused on the casual consumer. That's where the tablet market is headed. You can see where the tablets are being priced at. They're being priced at $199. You can start seeing where the demographics are headed. It's going to be the 30-plus-year-old woman. That's really what we've been our sweet spot, building casual games and silent games. That's what we plan on building. We've been building the same games for the last 10 years with exactly the same team. Because our team is based in St. Petersburg, Russia, we get more shots on goal. So in the Bay Area, $1 million investment gets you maybe 2 games, 2 shots on goal. Good luck with that. $1 million investment, 8 shots on goal. Our team is experienced and is based out of so far, it's still a hot market in St. Petersburg, but it's still much less expensive than either in the Bay Area or in Seattle. Here's the competitive landscape. So we're very much focused on tablet and casual. There's other folks that are really interested in this particular space. Game Insight has a very good foothold and in building some of the casual games on tablets. They also build a lot of them on smartphones. Obviously, Big Fish is also becoming very focused on that. So this is really where we're at. Discoverability is really hard for most developers. So I fully realize that we're going to have to pay for users. So part of the investment, what we're looking to get is actually to get enough money that we can actually acquire users to start rolling those users into new games. So very quickly, how we're different. Build and market 8 games in 2 years with $1 million investment. We understand free-to-play. I was at Digital Chocolate for a year, and prior to that, we experimented with free-to-play at Sandlot. We have the required industry contacts to make this happen. I've done this since before all of this began, so I know a lot of people in this room, and I met a lot of you guys, and I plan to have conversations with all of you. Good.
One.
Okay.
Q&A.
I'll leave on this slide.
Focus on the tablet market.
Yeah.
It's a crowded market in iOS and Android these days. People are having to spend on customer acquisition or marketing.
Yes.
Not as many people talking about Microsoft lately. Any thoughts around that and their new Windows Mobile 8?
A lot of thoughts. We have a great relationship with Microsoft, and we're plan to fully utilize that. But that is more of a strategic bet, and are they going to be successful? I certainly hope so. Are they going to be 100% successful? I don't know. So I'm willing to make that bet with them, and I'm willing to kind of go and have that conversation, and we have a lot of contacts into Microsoft that we're very excited about. So I plan to have that conversation, yes. And that could give us a good differentiator for our team versus other teams that are more focused on iPad and other devices.
You mentioned that the landscape is competitive and getting increasingly more competitive. In such a landscape, you talked a little bit about how you as a company and team are different. Can you talk a little bit about how you intend to differentiate your products?
Right. Well, the products themselves are also differentiated for the demographic. So if you look at who's playing on these new tablets, it's the 30, 40, 50-year-old woman. That's our experience, is building those types of games, whether they're hidden object games, time management games, light puzzle games. The game genres are important. The games themselves could be successes, they could be failures, it doesn't really matter. As long as we have good shots on goal, as long as we realize that we're going to spend a lot of money acquiring new users right away, and we built that into the plan, which we have, and then I believe we can be successful.
And let's say you achieve your goal here in Q3 of 2014. How much do you think the company is worth?
Well, the faster we achieve the goal, the more it's worth. Honestly, this graph never looks like that, and you guys know that. It's a bunch of bullshit. This graph never looks like that. It's either we succeed at some point, and it just shoots through the roof, or we fail. And the reality is, if we succeed and it shoots through the roof, the company can be worth 5x, 6x, 10x revenue. And you know, it depends. If it doesn't, then it's potentially team exit.
It's a great pitch. My
Thanks.
question is, how much do you need so I can write you a check?
So we have about $500,000 committed already from angels in the Seattle area. We're looking for another $500,000.
Cool.
We actually can do 4 games with $500,000, so we're pretty set.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, we're you know $1 million will certainly give us more shots on goal.
The question is more a joke. I'm not a VC. I'm working for Kabam. So, but I really like the pitch. Great team, great pitch. You guys really know the market and know what's your strengths. One thing I want to, after looking at this, I want to push you a little bit is the goal for $1 million, $2 million run rate at end of 2014 is too small. Like with your team, with the market, you should aim much bigger number.
I agree.
This number is a failure or it's a mediocre.
Right,
You're-
I agree. And part of it is the pitch that you see guys are seeing is a pitch that I'm doing to angels. And angels are very, as everybody knows that has done any of this stuff, are very risk averse. So we believe we could do this, and if we're successful, we could shoot this through the roof. And if I was to pitch to potential acquirers, I would show, listen, this is not, you know, the opportunity for upside is much greater than what I have here. Yeah, good point.
So one last question, and then we should wrap up. So from a, you know, the way often game studios are described is you're either a game factory play, which is that you keep on building, you know, assets, and whether or not the game fails, you keep having something else that you can use from game to game, or you're a franchise play. So you know, you're putting all your eggs and betting on that IP, or the first one, the second one, the third one, taking off. If not, you know, you're sort of starting in many ways from scratch. Which one would you be?
Well, we've got the multiple goals on shots on goal strategy, but I can tell you from experience that if we get a cake mania, or if we get something that works well, we will focus all of our efforts on that, or most of our efforts on that. So I think it's trying to get to that franchise play where we can actually have something that just shoots up, and then as soon as it does, then you know the mathematics of this business alter considerably. And then all of a sudden we're actually supporting that IP and supporting that game development, you know. So getting to an IP that really resonates and creates a lot of revenue, that's the goal. But we want to have enough shots on goal that we can be successful at it.
And you
that's what
said
we have.
Hidden Object and a couple of other games. Like what sorts of IPs are you going to be experimenting with in the
So
first year?
we're looking at genres that are popular with the casual gamer. So the, you know, ones that are like, you know, the hidden object games that are and fully supported by free-to-play. A lot of hidden object games nowadays are supported by an in-game unlock, and they call it free-to-play. That's bullshit. It's not free-to-play. It's an in-game unlock. So things that are supported by in-game currency that you purchase, or premium items, or as a result of social mechanics, all these things are what we're going to be focused on, putting them into the genres of traditional casual games, whether that's hidden object games, time management games, light puzzle games. So those are all the genres that we're experimenting with.
Got it. Great. Well,
Okay.
thank you very much. Let's give them a hand.
Thanks.
Next company is Popover.
How do I,
Your presentation should. Someone, hey Leah, the laptop that was there. Oh, he's coming back with it. Okay. Great. So until then, you can do a song and a dance.
I mean, I can talk without the presentation.
Yeah, let's. I want to give you the 5 minutes proper. So, but you can dance though. We're up for that.
I'm not a good dancer. You can't see that.
Tap dance. Yeah.
I'm a little bit interested with the audience. Do you mind asking a question about audience?
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
I'm just curious. I'm interested with what kind of audience are here. I don't know how to categorize.
Yeah.
but
So if you're press, raise your hand.
good question. Or
No
if you're an
press.
entrepreneur, you're working for a game company.
Hey, no problem.
Okay, who are the rest of you? Are you analysts trying to understand what's happening early on? No? Ad network, got it. Oh, ad network, monetization providers, pretty much anyone else who supports. Great, awesome. Thank you.
No.
Next.
Thank you very much. Nice one. Okay, so we are Popover. We're a cross-platform gaming company. Our tagline is "Everybody plays," kind of like Nike, just do it. This is our Popover management team. We've got Mark Nair, who's our CTO. He used to work at Twilio, left Twilio, went to Uber, joined me when we were literally in a room that was probably about the size of the stage. Our user acquisition advisor, AJ Enkel, who used to run mobile user acquisition for Zynga, and previous to that used to run their Facebook user acquisition. He's exclusive to us as a gaming company, so don't try to poach him. Our other advisors are Abdurrahman Tarabzuni and Yamal Hajar, who are head of Google Public Policy and the guy who established the Google office in emerging Arabia. And our key employees on the game production side are myself and Carl. Basically, two people who have been gambling since we were 5 years old. Started out playing cards for cards, cards for coins, and then cards for dollars and cards for hundreds. And that's sort of the transition. Our team today is 9 people in Mountain View, California.
Closer to the mic.
Oh, 9 people in Mountain View, California, and 6 people out in Kiev, Ukraine. We downsized the team there recently in order to establish our own office, which we did so that we could hire directly, given I'm sure the previous speaker indicated that the pricing goes up significantly if you use an outsourced party. So let us scale up significantly on the front-end development. All of our game architecture, decision-making, game production, and design happens in Mountain View. All of the front-end development is outsourced because, as many of the gaming companies here know, you want to ramp up and down on your front-end development, and you don't want to destroy your company morale when you start to sort of go up and down. Independent contractors, we've got 9. There's a studio out in China that does our bingo game. That's live in the iPad market. It's complete on iPhone, which we'll be launching and submitting next week, and it's also complete on Android tablet, the 2 places where we think we can monetize best. This is sort of the overview of the market. You all know this generally. The interesting point here is that everyone kind of has an idea of how big the US market is for virtual goods, but nobody has an idea how big the global market is, and that's where we come in. All of our games are heritage games or casino competitive games. So there's 2 types of games that we funnel into the network. Heritage games are games that people are playing for generations. So a game like Whist in England, a game like Bridge globally that doesn't exist on these platforms. These are the games that people have been playing, don't stop playing. You don't have to build a game, see your users drop off, and then build the next game to follow it up. We started in the Middle East market focus on heritage games just because of our backgrounds, and there's a total lack of Arabic content. I don't think anybody's mentioned the Middle East anywhere in this whole room or in the other room for that matter. The casino competitive games category is an interesting category because it monetizes. We have expertise in the domain, and we produce some of the best looking and top tier games in that category. It also has clear LTV. We know what a user's worth in bingo. We know what a user's worth in poker. We know what a user's worth in any other sort of game in terms of slots and what have you. Revenue model, it's direct in-app purchases. It's all virtual currency driven, so what'll happen is you'll give people a taste. 80-90% will lose that taste. They'll want to buy more to continue playing, and that's how you make your money. You can supplement it with third-party offers for those who don't want to pay through a bunch of the partners out there. And then you can also send advertisements into people that don't monetize and don't do offers. Our competitive advantages is all of our technology is proprietary and it's cross-platform. So you can play all the games simultaneous on Android, iPhone, Windows Phone 7. Doesn't really matter. We can go to any platform. If the user acquisition becomes too expensive on Facebook, we won't focus on Facebook. We'll focus on VKontacta, focus on another social network out there on the users there because all of our games are localized. So all of our games are in 17 languages. You could literally come in, your message that you'll get from Facebook to download the game is in the local language. When you play the game, it's in your local language. When you watch a video tutorial, it's in your local language. We have a localization manager who basically reviews every language with a native speaker after we get the translations, and then we push it out to production. We've developed a pretty cool tool where you could edit the strings, and live in production, you'll see the strings update in the game. We've also done some cool things on sort of chat translation. A lot of times you'll have an Arabic user or a Chinese user type into the chat box and it looks like a bunch of squiggly lines to an English user. So we integrated with the Google API, and if you hover over that chat string, you can actually pull translation from Google directly in the game. We didn't make it automated because Google started charging for the API. The gameplay, UI, and design superiority, I mean, basically we've been making the games and playing them sort of our whole lives. So when we make a game, we don't make a slots game, for example, which is our next title called Slots Around the World. We wouldn't make that game just by sort of eyeballing it or copying the circle, circle, circle strategy of every other slots gaming company out there. We'd do something unique. We'd focus on the actual elements of the reel, the sound, the gameplay in our current Slots Around the World game is something like getting a passport. You travel from city to city. The user has choice where to go next. all these little mechanics in terms of the functionality of a slot machine as well, in terms of the sound, the reels, all that
30 seconds.
sort of things matter. That's it. Questions? Sorry to talk so fast.
So why is your team the best team for this opportunity and in Middle Eastern games and card games?
So Middle East, in terms of focused on the heritage games, the reason we chose Middle East is because the team has the first Arabic employee at Facebook, the guy who established Google's office in emerging Arabia. It's all MIT, Stanford grads, top-tier team in terms of Middle East focus. I don't think there's anyone who's as qualified to create Middle Eastern games, and we were some of the first people to do it. So we've got our first title, YetiZen, that's out with literally 3,000 in marketing spend, which is the limited budget we had. We brought in 100,000 installs at 3 cents an install. Nobody else is acquiring those users from Egypt and Jordan, and they have no idea how to monetize them because they're useless to companies that don't have Arabic content. So I think that's an advantage. The other advantage is on the competitive side, casino side. You know, not much of these companies that are producing casino games are actually gamblers. They're actually guys who saw an opportunity to make a quick buck, so they got into the space. Basically, we've been gambling our whole lives, unfortunately, and we were kind of like the black sheep of the families, but now it turned out to be worth something. So that's how we ended up making these casino-style games.
Are your parents happy now?
No, not
No?
yet.
Okay.
No.
You mentioned the interest in the Middle Eastern market. Clearly, one of the areas of greatest spend for free-to-play games.
Yeah.
Are you primarily focused on Facebook games, browser games, mobile? What?
So we started with Facebook in the Middle East because basically the traffic is wide open. Nobody's buying it. So, you know, I hope you guys all don't start buying it now. Basically, we thought it was a great opportunity. If you go on any of the ad networks, nobody's asking for that traffic. There's no Arabic content. So we started on Facebook, but the monetization we think will be the best on tablets, on iPad, iPhone. If you look at a lot of the emerging countries and emerging economies, a lot of the people that have those high-end devices are people who are willing to spend. They're people that have credit cards. They're people that have traveled. They're people that speak more than one language. So those are the type of people that I think we'll be able to hit more on tablet and iPhone in particular.
There's a bit of a different dynamic of strength among the carriers in the Middle East versus the U.S. or other areas. Something that you'd see to exploit to help get distribution?
Fortunately, we can exploit that because our investor is Fahad Al Saud, who's basically family, runs some of the telcos in Saudi Arabia and a couple other places. So.
You talked about two distinct product lines. How do you decide which of those two to focus on with your limited set of resources, and how do those two sort of interrelate from a business perspective?
So I think we focus primarily, on the games that are going to monetize and have the best breakout. So Bingo, we were the first multiplayer bingo game on iPad. We just didn't have a user acquisition budget to market it. So we started there. We look at the Arabic games and the heritage games as sort of a secondary focus in terms of bringing users into the platform very cheap and then letting them monetize. So without the games to monetize very well, really bringing in users isn't that useful other than growing your user metrics, and you could be like, I guess sort of like a Peak Games with number 3 user metrics, but not half as much money profitability as like a Dragonplay or somebody else. So, I just wouldn't want to, focus entirely on bringing in a bulk of users. I also focus on monetizing. Although you do get a lot of whales from the Middle East.
Can you talk a little bit about what sort of money you've raised to date, what sort of money you want to raise, and at what terms or valuation?
Yeah, so I've raised $1 million from a Series A sort of angel investor who was the first Arabic employee at Facebook, who I said earlier. With that, we built a cross-platform poker game that's done on Android, iPhone, iPad, Windows is under development, and other platforms, Facebook. We've also built a cross-platform bingo game, and we've also built a TinyCo game on Facebook and an engine that's cross-platform that let us deploy in any language and anything. So with $1 million, we built all that, pretty much bootstrapping like crazy and having, an office in Kiev and negotiating some very favorable contracts. And to now, I think, user acquisition games changed. A year and a half ago when we first formed the company, and a year ago when we raised capital, it was a lot cheaper to acquire users. Today on mobile, if you don't raise $3 million today, you might as well not raise any money because you're going to need $2 million for user acquisition. So basically, that's where we're at, $3 million for 30%.
A quick feedback for you. You guys are doing a great job on technology and all the effort and execution. But I see, following the question you're asking, I see a big problem you're running into. At Kabam, we have 500 people. We have over 100 million funding and multiple hundreds of $1 million revenue. But we're very cautious about what our effort is on, like for localization, for live ops. We're very cautious where we spend our resource on and money on. But I see you, on the contrary, you have a very limited resource, but you're doing everything. And I would say for a startup, probably that's one of the common mistake and a big mistake to make. And with $1 million, with so many things you have done, I don't see a good milestone, and it is very concerning for what's next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I
slightly-
suggest you really, really tight up your effort.
That's exactly what we did. So we focused on the 3 games that we have out, basically trying to get users into those once we do raise capital, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I just had one comment about that. So I slightly disagree in that, Kabam's history before it started focusing on hardcore games, it was doing a lot of very different things. And I think that's just the nature of startups, that you're going to sort of be opportunistic, try a bunch of different things, and once you find an opportunity that you can really exploit, you're just going to run with the ball. So I think that's actually a good model.
Okay, if you would like to hear the judges disagree after this, so, we'll have a special session there. But thanks so much, Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Let's give him a hand. All right, next team, Ethan from Run Wilder. Ethan, you into running?
What's that?
You into running? Running wild?
To getting crazier, having more fun.
Next time on the application, I'm going to have this one question. Why did you name your company what you did, and what inspired you?
Sorry, perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Ethan from Run Wilder, and the motto of our company and our focus is characters born on mobile. And so our concept is that we place an immense priority on creating a root foundation that we could build a franchise off of. And so it's to really spend the time to create an in-depth character, an in-depth story, and from that, expand into different markets and to branch into mainstream TV, core gaming, merchandising. Through mobile, we can do that at a very low cost comparatively to launching a TV pilot or a film. And so our team has combined kind of best-in-breed mobile developers and game developers from Silicon Valley, partnering up with creative teams in Hollywood to get the best writers and creators together and kind of speaking the same language so that we can create engaging content. If you step back and look at, I guess, the best example I've ever seen of creating a franchise that can go cross-platform, it's Mickey Mouse with Disney. And at the time, TV was kind of the growth platform of their generation. So they leveraged TV, and now you can see Mickey and you can see Disney absolutely everywhere. Zynga leveraged Facebook as the growth platform of the time and the internet. And whereas they're making millions of dollars and there's millions of users, there's not one franchisable title across everything. So it's androgynous farmers, or nothing that could be turned into a lasting name that could expand. Talking Tom with Outfit 7, they leveraged the talk mechanic and were the first to go on the tablet and have the touch interactivity. If they'd started with a little bit more character and personality, I think the legs go a lot farther. They're lucky they have 250 million users, so you can do a lot with that. And they've since partnered with WME and are making a movie and a film and the book and everything you can imagine. So with Run Wilder, the first product that we put out was named Osgood, and we actually took a live-action puppet, and we worked with the guys who do Crank Anchors, and so it's a puppet's this tall, and he's filmed live action. Essentially, it's a virtual pet. It's free to play with in-app payments, and the more and more beer and cheeseburgers you feed him, he advances through the levels of this story, and you eventually run out of beer, and you have to buy more beer to keep on feeding him. So Osgood, we launched it on a small budget to about 60,000 downloads. We did a deal with Tapjoy for some offer wall marketing, and we actually did a deal with ebombsworld.com, the humor site, to create a animated web series that they underwrote the entire production of, or not animated, a live action. So we can actually take this character and put him into the real world, and so he's riding in a limo and partying and doing these crazy things. But really, what we succeeded is building this character that people love. Our next title that we're working on now is called Bird Destruction, and we purchased the IP from a group of Hollywood writers. Essentially, long story short, the Bird Destruction is a 12-year-old character, so the audience is for a 12 to 14-year-old, boy, scaling up from there. And he fights this series of bad guys. But really what attracted us is there's this entire world and a character universe that's well thought out and that's been created that we can play with. So this game's actually a platformer, an endless platformer. It's a paid download. And then there'll be in-app upsell options within the game to get different boosts. You kind of can consider Mega Run or Jetpack Joyride. And those are, that you could picture that and have Bird Destruction, the little guy. When he gets upset, he turns into Big Bird, kind of hulks out and turns into this psycho. Fights a Yeti from, YetiZen.
Hey, we have a nice Yeti. Don't fight it.
He's an evil Yeti.
Your
yeah.
Osgood is like a drunk little teddy bear.
Osgood is kind of like a drunk teddy bear. Apple liked that and some and didn't like all of that. And so, kind of where we're at now with, let me jump back a second. So with the Bird Destruction franchise, we've actually partnered with Maker Studio, which if you're unfamiliar is, they represent a bunch of the YouTube talent. And so they have a similar network where they can cross-promote to people with YouTube subscribers on the new channels that have 5 million users. So the head of Kids Animation we've partnered with to help us create this world and create it in a format that we can add simultaneously when we launch the game, the platformer, we launch an online animated web series of short-form content and cross-promote back and forth with this content. So where we're at today is Osgood launched about 3 months ago. As I mentioned, about 60,000 downloads on pretty much zero budget. It was a critical success with 4.5-star reviews. With the web series that we launched on eBaum's World had over 500,000 views. Now we're moved into Bird Destruction, and we're kind of midway through the mobile development phase of that. This is kind of our franchise model at large. So you can see we've somewhat flipped the pyramid, the traditional pyramid, where we start with a core property. We launch it as a mobile game. We know we can do that for a low cost of IP. And from there, we expand into broadcast and merchandising. The next step isn't necessarily to go straight from the game into a show on Cartoon Network or on live TV, but we'll partner with some of the YouTube channels and the different, Netflix and Hulu to get that, another form of distribution. And the same way goes, once you have your hit, we can get into merchandising and go from there. In terms of exit verticals, our concept is to build up a slate of IP, in-house IP, and once you have a franchise character, you're attractive across the board. And so, by launching these titles on mobile, we can develop new titles for, in the range of $200,000, $250,000, put out a web series, and really bring these characters to life. And from there, in terms of long-term monetization, the long tail that you have on this is really, our core monetization will be digital goods and in-app payments, but from there, there's possibility for advertising, brand sponsorships, and eventually looking from an exit from 3 verticals, potentially mobile games, new media, or traditional media companies who are trying to take their titles to life. Just to, if I have some more time here to explain who our team is, I'm Ethan. I've spent about...
time up, sorry.
All
right. Q&A and really quick, fast Q&A.
Quickly ask, we've obviously seen companies like Rovio with the Angry Birds, Zepto Labs with Cut the Rope. They've created characters. They've started licensing them out for different properties. Why haven't we seen these companies come up on an animated series or movies or television shows? What do you think the lessons are to be learned from what they've done versus what you'd like to do?
I think there's a different way. There's a lot of times that people who are writing the animated series can't necessarily comprehend how to write for a game like this. So it's really getting these heads of state in the same room. And this is what we spend a lot of time on is, we have game experts who know how to write a story for a game, and we have these web animated series experts. So to get everybody understanding on the same page that the content we're creating, there is a place for both. And so it's how you have those play together, so that the game doesn't necessarily parallel the animated series, but it's this jump out period where you go through this new adventure. And I think a lot of traditional big title movies have just been kind of what I'll call cheap ports that aren't really a fun game experience. I mean, you have to hold the story and the game equally on par here. They both have to be fun.
I think Mike's question is more like a trapping question, trying to wake you up, instead of really want to hear an answer. I see you understand the franchise as a concept based on what you described, but seems it's not necessarily a correct way to understand the franchise. Normally, franchise is created either by movie, by game, you have to have a massive audience pool
Right.
to have a franchise first. Then you can begin to expand your franchise into different channels, into movie, into games.
Absolutely.
But you're doing it a opposite way, which is like you're over investing to start with a whole
Right.
bunch of characters, and hoping it become a franchise without knowing how to have massive audience adoption first.
And
That's that angle of approach. I don't know. Maybe you can prove that you were the first one
Right.
to make it successful.
Yeah, I think our bet is that the cost you can go to market on mobile is so much lower than spending. If you look at the multipliers of return on an Angry Birds versus Avengers, that we can, through the platforms, the platformer game or the mobile character app, we can iterate multiple characters until we get that hit, and then we really turn on the juice. So we're saying that we can, so much media is being consumed through mobile apps now that we see that as a more fertile starting point to begin what we hope becomes a franchise. And we can iterate and put out, 10 or 20 of those. And once one hits, then we really turn on the works.
Yeah, I actually kind of disagree with Harry here as well. So I agree with your thesis, which is that you can start with a mobile game and that can create a franchise. I think that there's a bunch of really great examples in the marketplace where Rovio has done it, Cut the Rope has done it, even Disney is doing it with Where's My Water. Can you talk a little bit about what happened with Osgood and sort of what you've learned from that you're going to apply to the next game?
Yeah, so with Osgood, it was the actual gameplay was pretty, it was relatively low amount. It was an interactive character a la Talking Tom. And it was targeted at, an 18 and above. It's a beer drinking audience. And so we found with Osgood that people loved the character. We always got high reviews. It was deep engagement, but that audience was looking for something deeper. So, in the future, I would say we would take that platform that we can make live action characters and go for the younger audience with that platform, for a children audience. Because half of our comments, be it that they were drinking beer, was, my kid loves this. I don't care that it's beer, my kid loves this. And so with Bird Destruction and the platform, we really just said, okay, we need to have the same level of story and the same level of character, but have a deeper actual game mechanic.
And you mentioned that you had a marketing deal with Tapjoy. Was that sort of an install deal? And how many installs of your 60,000 were they responsible for?
Yeah, so we didn't actually use the entire budget, but it was an exclusive on their offer wall for this title. I would say out of that, somewhere in the realm of 15 or 20% of them came from that. Okay. We had all this content on eBaum's World, the live action videos, and that drove a lot of traffic in. There's a lot of interesting stuff, seeing the quality of the users that came in from Tapjoy or eBaum's World verse. When we launched, we did a kind of closed, very targeted beta in Canada, and our retention and engagement on those users were through the roof because we're picking the right people. And so, for future titles, for Bird Destruction, we'll be seeking a publishing, a good publishing partner to really help us get the word out on this next title.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Let's give them a hand.
Great. Thank you.
Last team, John, come on up. They're just leaving for lunch.
I don't need audio.
John, don't worry. They're just leaving for lunch. It's not that they weren't looking forward to your pitch.
It's not me.
It's not you. Yeah, I can lunch too. I guess it's the lunchroom. Okay.
Yeah, looks like it's working. Crank it up. Oh, is it not going to the screen? Okay. Let's see. Do you know how to do that? Duplicate, right? Yeah. Okay, there it goes. Cool. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon now, I guess. So my name is John Krajewski. I'm from Strange Loop Games, and this is our pitch about board games in the social mobile universe. So everybody's got these devices in their pocket, walking around, connected to the internet, connecting to everybody they know through these social networks. And the question is, what kind of games are going to make the best use out of these devices? There's so many features that these enable that just weren't possible even a few years ago before. And some of the best things are asynchronous multiplayer. These players aren't going to be online all the time. They're going to be checking it, when they're in line for the bus or they're at the bank or whatever. Short play sessions, it's something you kind of fit into the rest of your day. And something that really takes advantage of your friends. These are very social devices, and games should really make use of that in a way that's meaningful. Some of the examples of games that have done this have become huge hits are Words with Friends, Draw Something, Hero Academy. These are all games that really take advantage of these three kind of key aspects of these devices. So there's a huge demand for these types of games, but there's not really a ton of them out there. We've seen some massive hits from them, but there's not a whole lot that have really stuck. And the reason for that, well, designing them is hard. It's not easy to make a game that's really going to resonate with users. But there are actually hundreds of these games already designed out there, and that is board games. So board games is a perfect fit for these kind of devices. There's this whole kind of industry of board games like Catan and Power Grid and these like different ones that are up and coming, not like old Monopoly or those things, but these very social games perfect for these digital kind of platforms that just aren't being utilized in that way. And that's kind of our vision for what we want to, the direction we want to go in this, with this project, is using these kind of three key aspects that make these games so popular, the asynchronous short play sessions. And it's really built for playing with friends. They're actual social games. So many social games are barely social at all. These are completely designed around playing with your friends. And there's hundreds of these games already designed, and they have followings. They're play-tested, polished, award-winning games. They're just not out there digitally. It doesn't make any sense that these two things aren't connected. It's a perfect platform and the perfect type of games. So what we want to do is create a framework for bringing these games to the digital, mobile and social universe. And our approach to that is to really focus on the virality of it, focus on marketing things. There's kind of 4 keys that we want to focus on. So it's free to play. All the games we want to be free to play, so there's no barrier to get your friends in. If you like a game, your friend can just download it immediately. It's cross-platform, so there's no barrier on the type of device they have. iPhone can play with Android, can play with somebody on Facebook or a Flash portal, just everything. We want to get it out there. We want to really integrate it deeply with social networks, so it's really easy to see what your friends are playing and to bring other friends into the game. And we want a shared user base across these games. So if you come into one game, you can see the other games that are out there. Your user can play on different ones, and so you really start to build a sense of community, and that's a really important part of building this framework. There are some board games out there for iPad and iPhone, but they don't execute. Nobody executes on all of these. A few of them execute on some of them. But we think that these 4 keys are going to really make this a viral platform and something that can expand quickly. So in a free-to-play business model, we'll have a few different ways that we can monetize that. Upgraded board art, so everybody can play the basic game completely. But you can upgrade the art, you can make it look better, make it 3D, more interesting visuals. Avatar personalization, so you can actually, since we have this community, people are going to want to customize and build personality to their characters in game. There's expansion packs. A lot of these games already have expansions, and that we can just bring to the game and make that something we sell. We do not want to sell any game modifiers, so you can't win by paying money in these games at all. It doesn't give you an advantage. And that's something that really goes to the core of what these games are and makes them a lot more fun and interesting to play with each other. It's more about the game. So a little bit about our team. We're the team behind the indie game Vessel, which came out this year. It's in the top 15 games so far. So it's been really well received. We're just bringing on a new member, Stu Denman, who created a game Fight Camp for Facebook, which had a huge number of users at its peak. And so we've got this social experience, this Facebook experience that we're really redirecting the company to focus on the mobile and social universe. So there's a number of challenges ahead. Licensing these IPs is one thing we're going to need to focus on. And we think that this is going to go well because there's hundreds of these games that are just not being used digitally, and I can't imagine that the owners of these are going to not want to start making money off of these games. The other challenge is building the technology, and we plan to use Unity for that so we can have a good cross-platform reach. We can get it on everything easily. Very tightly integrated with social networks, and special attention to the community hub. So in a nutshell, board games are a perfect fit for these type of devices, and by focusing on these four key aspects is how we plan to bring them to the social mobile universe. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, quick Q&A. Top 15 games on Facebook, on what top 15 in what way?
Sorry?
The top 15? You said
no,
you
top
had a
15
game
top
that
15
launched?
PC games. We were a
games.
PC game.
Okay, got it.
If you had whatever resources you wanted, what board game would you license?
The one I want to start with is called Hansa Teutonica, or the Power Grid, or there's a few. I don't know if you guys are these game players, but I'm an avid board gamer, so there's a whole suite of them that I would approach, given the resources.
These licensing deals, what do they look like? Do they get revenue share in sort of future works of the game?
It would probably be on a per company basis. We discuss with them what they're interested in. Revenue share would probably be the most favorable option. Maybe some money up front, depending on what they're looking for.
Okay. That's a lot of BD work. Would
Yeah.
you be handling that?
I would be handling that. We'd probably bring another person on if we received investment to help focus on that.
It's a pretty interesting direction. I don't know how big the market is, and if you can, if you want to pitch for investor, and if you can analyze the market size and potential outcome, that will make the thing clearer.
Yeah, definitely.
So I really agree with your thesis. I think it's a huge market, and there's tons of DAU and also really great, attractive exits to folks like EA here. Can you talk a little bit about, one thing that I didn't sort of understand where you're coming from is competition. So you said that you don't feel like there's actually much competition doing this.
There is competition in the form that there's other board games that exist for iPad and things like that, but the fact that they're not scalable, really. Like, our design is scalable. We have this shared user base, which is going to be a key to forming this community. They're not free to play. They're not cross-platform. There's so many limitations to these. Nobody's taking this approach, and that's where I think there's a huge opportunity in this market.
Okay, any final parting questions? No? Great. Well, let's give them a
Thanks
hand.
a lot.
So since we are 5 minutes over, we're actually going to wrap this up right now. Winners will be announced on the website in 2 weeks, and I will be in touch with you guys individually as well. So thank you very much, judges, and thank you for competing, everyone who did compete. And thanks, audience.